The Forbidden Door swung open tonight with Bryan Danielson calling out Kazuchika Okada, one of the two main events at Forbidden Door, which is coming up this Sunday in Toronto. Danielson said he wanted the Rainmaker, and the forecast called for some rain. Out he came at the end of the show. We had our face-off. Of course, Danielson was able to slip away before he could be Rainmakered into oblivion. They're not going to give that away tonight. You didn't expect that, right? You didn't expect a Rainmaker to be delivered tonight. But it was nice to have that brief interaction between the two of them on the show. Felt like a special moment. It felt like a big deal. And that's important because they threw so much shit at us tonight on this show. It's hard to remember everything that happened, quite frankly. It was one of those nights in AEW where Tony Khan just said, we're going to give you everything that we possibly can give you stuffed into a 2-hour window, and you're going to like it. CM Punk was on the show tonight. Feels like a distant memory. He was in the opening segment of the show. We never saw him or heard from him again. Like he said on the show, he's supposed to be a Collision guy. What's he doing on Dynamite? But there he was, CM Punk making a surprise appearance on the show. They were in Chicago tonight. Got to give the Chicago faithful what they want. But because CM Punk was on the show tonight, that meant that the Elite were not in the building. Now, the Elite had a segment in the back that clearly was pre-taped last week. But there was no Kenny Omega. There were no Young Bucks on the show tonight. MJF and Adam Cole, they had their big Eliminator match last week on TV. They went to a 30-minute draw. And they had a hell of a match on last week's show. Tonight, we had both men back in the ring. Adam Cole wants his rematch. MJF says no. And as it turns out, the blind Eliminator tag team tournament that they teased on Collision on Saturday, we didn't have any information about it. We didn't really know exactly what the format would be. And I said in the Collision review, we don't know if it's going to be more of a Battle Bowl type thing from the old WCW days, or if it's just tag teams that we don't know. We just don't know the names of the teams that are going to be included. Oh no, they're going back in the Wayback Machine. They're going back to the WCW Lethal Lottery days. And we already know the first team in that tournament, and I'll give you one guess who the tag team is. What a coincidence in the tumbler as they have the names spinning and spinning and spinning that it just so happens to land on MJF and Adam Cole. Both men are going to be tag team partners in this Eliminator, which neither man was happy about. But Tanahashi popped up on the screen. He was going to try one more time to convince MJF to give him the match that he asked for at Forbidden Door. We'll talk about whether or not that actually happened or not. But we had some other news tonight that was broken. Now, we know the Owen Hart tournaments, men and women, are coming up very soon. I had forgotten, frankly, how soon these tournaments were coming up. So soon, in fact, that we got the brackets for the tournaments tonight, which I will show you right now. This here is the men's Owen Hart tournament bracket for 2023. And as you will see, here in this bracket, I think the thing that shocked me more than anything else, if you look on the left side, we'll start on the left side of the bracket. Because the first match in this tournament is coming up at Forbidden Door this Sunday. Just announced. It is going to be CM Punk going one-on-one with Satoshi Kojima from New Japan Pro Wrestling. Yes, they announced CM Punk's first singles match in 9 months in a random tournament bracket graphic that they threw up on the screen. And it is against Satoshi Kojima, 52-year-old Satoshi Kojima. Kojima has wrestled before in AEW. This will not be his first time on an AEW show. He wrestled Jon Moxley a couple of years ago at All Out. And Kojima is very good, but it's a bit of a weird pairing. And again, this is his first singles match for Punk in 9 months, and this is how they chose to announce it. That's a suspect decision right there. But why is this match happening? Why are we getting CM Punk against Satoshi Kojima? Well, my best guess ties into the news that broke earlier today, which is that Kenta against CM Punk was originally scheduled to take place at Forbidden Door. For whatever reason, Kenta decided to pull out. I mean, he's been campaigning on social media now for weeks trying to get a match with CM Punk. And then something happened, and all of a sudden he said, I don't want the match with Punk. And I'm sitting here figuring it's part of an angle, right? They must be building to something. Punk supposedly is open to the match. Well, it looks like Kenta really doesn't want to work with Punk. Boy, there's a lot of people who seem to not want to work with Punk. Well, now it makes a little more sense, and we'll see. I'm sure they'll get more information. Will come out in the days to come. But if the plan was to do Punk and Kenta here in the opening round of this tournament, then obviously Kenta was not going to win that match. And that could very well indicate why Punk no longer had an opponent, and they had to stick Satoshi Kojima in there, because Kenta may have said, fuck that, I'm not coming in here to lose to this guy who stole my move. I want to make money off this match. I want this match to be a big deal. And I'm going to lose to this guy in the opening round? Fuck that. So that could very well be the reason why Kenta pulled out. But it will be Punk against Kojima, and the winner of Punk against Kojima is going to meet the winner of Samoa Joe against Roderick Strong, which in and of itself sounds like a hell of a match. That's going to be taking place on the June 29th episode of Collision in Hamilton, Ontario. That takes place next weekend. On the other side of the bracket, move over to the right side here, we have the natural Dustin Rhodes one-on-one with Powerhouse Hobbs. And that also will be taking place on the June 29th episode of Collision. And the winner of that match will meet Juice Robinson or Ricky Starks. So all three of those matches that you see, other than the Punk match, are taking place on the same episode of Collision, which is not this coming Saturday, but it will be the following Saturday. Now, as I look at this tournament right now, I haven't really had time to sit here and absorb this because the show moves so fucking fast. So I'm really looking at this as you are, kind of for the first time. Yeah, the obvious matches here, as you look at this bracket, would be Punk moving on, which, I mean, that has to be a given. Punk moving on and Joe moving on. And we got CM Punk against Samoa Joe in the semifinals. I would hate, in their first singles meeting in all these years, for Punk to just beat Joe in a semifinal match. You gotta keep the story going. You gotta have Samoa Joe beating CM Punk. CM Punk, he can't get that monkey off his back. He still can't beat this fucking guy. I would hate to have Punk finally beat Joe and just have it be a semifinal match here in this tournament. So if they're going to do Punk and Joe in the semis, it should be Joe moving on. Whether he has help from Bullet Club Gold, whether Joe, cheats in some other form or fashion. I'm looking at this and I'm seeing Punk going on, Joe moving on, Joe beats Punk in the semifinals. And Joe goes to the finals. Then you look at the other side of the bracket. And I know Dustin Rhodes has said that he's planning on retiring soon. I don't know if he's retiring this year like Sting is or how much time he has left. He's closer to the end than he is to the beginning. And maybe they want to go for the old, feel-good story of Dustin getting one big win. Dustin Rhodes does not need to win this fucking tournament. Powerhouse Hobbs needs all the help in the world that he can get. Losing to Dustin Rhodes does him no good. So Hobbs should beat Dustin Rhodes, and there shouldn't even be a second thought paid to that. Ricky Starks and Juice Robinson should see Ricky Starks moving on. We get Starks and Hobbs in the semifinals. Starks moves on. We get Starks and Joe in the finals. CM Punk comes back for revenge and gives Ricky the assist by costing Joe the finals of the Owen, and Ricky Starks is the winner of the Owen Hart men's tournament. That is what the outcome of this tournament should be. Ricky Starks should be the one who goes on to win this tournament. Ricky Starks, I'm going to talk about him here in the opening segment. When he came out and he was overwhelmed by Bullet Club Gold, he just felt like another guy running out there and being beaten up by people until Punk made the save. Ricky Starks should be the one in that role. How do you get him to that point where he's the big name, like Punk was tonight in Chicago, where he's the big name that comes out and makes the save? Well, he's got to rack up wins. This would be a big win for him. That's how I would book that tournament. Now let's take a look at the women's tournament, because we have a men's Owen and now we have a women's Owen. Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, the winner of last year's women's Owen Hart tournament, takes on Ruby Soho. That takes place on Dynamite next week. We have Anna Jay taking on Sky Blue. That's happening this Friday on Rampage. On the other side, we have Nyla Rose against Willow Nightingale, the New Japan Strong Women's Champion. Thank you, Mercedes. And Athena, who I had forgotten about, which sucks because she's awesome. The Ring of Honor Women's Champion, Athena, one-on-one with Billy Starks. That will happen on the 0-hour pre-show this Sunday, the pre-show to Forbidden Door. Now, I literally am looking at this for the first time. I just took the image and popped it in here without even looking at it. So I'm looking at this bracket, and I fear they could give it to Britt Baker 2 years in a row, which would be a fucking waste. So I'm looking at this. Sky Blue is going to beat Anna Jay on Friday. So we'll put Sky Blue in the semis. Ruby Soho beats Britt Baker. So I would do Ruby and Sky Blue in the semis. Ruby beats Sky Blue, goes all the way to the finals. On the other side, Athena beats Billy. So Athena moves on to the semifinals. Willow beats Nyla Rose. We get Willow and we get Athena. And honestly, I could go either way there. I would not mind seeing either Willow or Athena win this tournament. But I think Willow beats Athena, and it ends up being Willow and Ruby, and Willow beats Ruby. And that's how I see this playing out. I think we get Ricky Starks for the men. I think we get Willow Nightingale for the women. I would not mind if it was Athena, but I'm going with Starks and Willow. I'm going with two baby faces to win the Owen Hart tournaments this year. There you go. I've just mapped it all out for you. Mapped it all out. I snuck into the booking meeting with Tony Khan and his big book. If you saw All Access, he has his big book, his booking book. I snuck in. Now, there you go. So let's get into this here, because there is, my God, there's so much to get into. Actually, I do want to make this point. This was a very busy episode of Dynamite tonight. It was a chaotic episode. I was never bored. I will say that. I was never bored by this episode tonight. That's not necessarily a great thing if they give you too much at once. My main issue with this show, even though I liked many parts of it, was that they waited until the last minute to throw all of these matches at us. And they did this last year, I think, too, with Forbidden Door, where they wait until almost the last minute to really fill out the rest of the card. The problem with that, if it was just a matter of announcing the remaining matches for Forbidden Door, that really wouldn't be too much of a problem. The problem is they announce all these new matches for Forbidden Door, and they announce all these matches for Rampage, and they announce all these matches for Collision, and then they put the tournament graphics up for the Owen and all of these matches that are taking place on Collision next week. And by the end of the show, how are you supposed to fucking remember everything that they threw at you? How many matches did they announce tonight? Between Forbidden Door, Rampage, Collision, and then next week's Collision, and next week's Dynamite. I forgot about next week's Dynamite. They probably threw no less than 2 to 3 dozen matches at us tonight. It's too much to throw at the audience all at once. They made some pretty cool announcements tonight. Tanahashi is wrestling Swerve Strickland on Saturday on Collision. That's a pretty cool match. And yet it was a total afterthought. It was just like, hey, Tanahashi's wrestling. And it was weird, too, because Excalibur paused when they put the graphic on screen for it. Like, I don't know if he fucked up somehow. I don't know what happened there. But they threw that up there. And I'm like, wow, Tanahashi and Swerve, that's pretty cool. We already know who's winning, of course. Because Tanahashi's, well, we'll get to Tanahashi and what he's doing on Sunday. It's too much. You're throwing too much at people. And you're not giving them a chance to absorb some matches here that are pretty fucking cool. And so in the end, it ends up working against you. And that was honestly my biggest criticism about what they did here on this show. It's hard to remember all of it. Just casually throwing out some of these matches that should be treated like a bigger deal. Excalibur doesn't have time for that. Excalibur, he's got copy on the page in front of him that he's got to get through. And he just speeds through it, and it's like, all right, it's just another match on the card. That they have to avoid doing that in the future. You can't just throw all of this, it's like a fucking info dump on us all at once. And it's hard to really appreciate all of these matches that they're giving us over these next 2 weeks. Some pretty badass matches. Anyway, this is your Dynamite Go Home review for June 21st, 2023. I am the Solomonster. Like and subscribe. We're looking for at least 400 likes here on this video to do Be the Booker. Later on in the stream, if we hit our goal, we will do that. Super chats are open. I want to hear from you guys. And of course, channel memberships are always open if you would like to join our little GWO. And don't forget that this Sunday is Forbidden Door. I will be live after the pay-per-view is over for the full Forbidden Door review. So you got episode 814 of the podcast dropping on Sunday afternoon, and then Sunday night, you come on back here to YouTube, and we got a lot to talk about, including 2 huge main events on that show. So we got some news, some ratings news to talk about here before we get into this Dynamite recap. Because Saturday night was the debut episode of AEW Collision on TNT, the very first episode. The return of CM Punk after a 9-month layoff. And I asked you guys in the chat last week what your predictions were, what you thought the show might do, what that first number might be. I believe the number I threw out there was 960,000. I was feeling very generous because it was the return of Punk. And I thought maybe that, maybe that'll pop a bigger number than most people are expecting. It wasn't going to do the 1.1 million or whatever it was that his debut did. But I said, yeah, they're not going to hit 1 million, 960 though, 950, 960, I could see. Well, the number is in, and Collision on Saturday averaged 816,000 live viewers on TNT on Saturday night, headlined by CM Punk's return to AEW. Just as a comparison, the debut episode of AEW Rampage did 740,000 viewers. That was back in August of 2021. And of course, the debut episode of Dynamite 4 years ago did 1.4 million. So it's quite the discrepancy there between those two shows. Collision, though, finished third on all of cable in the key demo, which actually topped the demo number that Dynamite did last week. So 816,000 is a hell of a number. Again, it was lower than what I had predicted, but 816 is not a bad number. 816 is not a bad number. Now, you expect them to drop from there. If they don't drop, if they can actually build off that number, that would be actually pretty impressive if they manage to do that on a Saturday night. But that's the starting point. That's a pretty good starting point, pretty good audience for that night of the week. But like I said, I would suspect the numbers will. Yes, that's right. The law of diminishing returns. That's exactly what it is. But if they can settle, somewhere in that 700,000 or 800,000 range, that would be a very good place for them to be at. And I thought the first episode was excellent. That first episode of Collision. The second one, based on the lineup, I'll share with you a little bit later on. Also looking very impressive. I will not be live after Collision this weekend. I will not be here. Nor will I be live for the following week's Collision. But again, any Collision stuff I will cover on the main podcast. And then hopefully in 2 weeks, I think we'll resume the live Collision reviews, and then we'll go from there. Well, let's talk about Dynamite tonight because the show opened with the Hardys, Matt and Jeff, getting into the ring against the Guns, Austin and Colton Gunn. They kept this relatively short. I think this went about 5 or 6 minutes, which is for the best with Jeff involved. Matt hit a side effect on Austin and followed with a twist of fate. He had the pin. Colton, though, put Austin's foot on the bottom rope right in front of the referee, Rick Knox, who saw this. He looked at it. He was talking to himself. He was saying a few words, and that was pretty much it. Colton tagged in. He executed a neck breaker on Matt. Jeff ran in. He pushed Austin into the pin to break up the fall at the last moment. Jeff was working over both Guns, hit a twist of fate to Colton. Jeff went up top. He was setting up for the Swanton Bomb when who should show up but Juice Robinson. And he distracted the referee while Switchblade Jay White shoved Jeff off the top rope. And the Guns hit the 310 to Yuma to Jeff, and Austin pinned him to win the match. So the Guns beat the Hardys. Switchblade and Juice paying back the Guns for their assist a couple of weeks ago against Ricky Starks. We still don't know if the Guns are technically, officially part of Bullet Club Gold, or if this was just them, again, doing them a solid and paying them back for what they did for them a few weeks ago. After the match, White and Robinson, they worked over the Hardys, and Juice punched Jeff with a roll of quarters. He set up to do the same thing to Matt, but Ricky Starks ran out. So here comes the hero to save the day, Ricky Starks, and what happens? Ricky Starks immediately overwhelmed. Immediately overwhelmed. So FTR runs out to assist. They also got overwhelmed because the Hardys basically disappeared. I don't know where the Hardys went. The Hardys vanished from this segment. They were a non-factor, and the fans started chanting. They could feel it, right? They saw FTR come out. They said, oh, maybe he's here, right? And they start chanting for CM Punk, CM Punk. And they got CM Punk. No music, which makes sense. It'd be pretty goofy if you waited for his music to be played. So CM Punk, no music, just runs down to the ring. He sprinted into the squared circle. Of course, the baby faces at that point, now with Punk there, right? They took control. Punk set Juice up for the GTS, but he slipped away to the floor. So Punk asked for the microphone, and he said that if the heels wanted to fight so badly, they would have a match next week, he said, on Collision. And a few moments later, he clarified he was talking about this weekend, this Saturday, which is not next week. He meant the next Collision. The next Collision is only a few days from now. And he said, I'm a Collision guy. I'm not even supposed to be here. So Punk and Starks and FTR all celebrated. The Chicago fans were very happy to see CM Punk. They were happy to see him on Saturday, and they were happy here at the Wintrust. There's a different building, smaller venue. But they were very happy to see Punk on this show as well. And look, it made sense to actually have him on there because he just came back. He just came back, and you know there were at least some people who bought a ticket to this show. Whether they knew it at the time they bought the ticket or they just assumed because, hey, Punk just came back, right? He's our guy, and he just returned on Saturday, so of course he'll be here on Wednesday, right? So you had people in the building who were hoping that Punk would be there. Not because he was advertised, but just because they were in Chicago, and it's only natural to assume that CM Punk would be there if he just made his return. So it made sense for him to be on the show. Now, the belief, if you were following all the Punk and Elite stuff now for months and months, and all the news about Punk's return, and I covered it on the podcast, the belief is that Punk would make sporadic appearances on the Wednesday show. It's not that he would be barred from appearing on Dynamite. Punk will occasionally make an appearance on Dynamite, but the belief is that when he does, it will be on those weeks that the Elite are not there. So that there's no overlap. They don't accidentally bump into each other, and I don't know what they're expecting to happen. If they see each other, if they pass by each other in the hallway, I don't know what happens. Does Matt Jackson blow a spitball at Punk? Does Punk whip out his fucking ninja star and slice his throat open? I mean, what are they expecting here? But apparently Punk will be on Dynamite rarely, and when he is, the Elite will not be there. The issue tonight is that the Elite were not there because Punk was on the show. There is no other reason that the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega were not live, physically live in the building tonight, other than the fact that CM Punk was on the show. I don't want to read something tomorrow about how, well, you know, they had a scheduling conflict or they had to be somewhere else and it's just a coincidence. Bullshit. They were not on the show tonight because of CM Punk, and I still laugh at this. Tony Khan is going to try to manage this. He's going to try to make this work. But I just look at this and I shake my head that this is where we are. That you have top names on this roster who work for your company who cannot even be on the same show at the same time, whether it's because they're afraid of being in the same building with this man or because their lawyers said that they shouldn't be in the same building as this man, or it's just Tony Khan saying, you know what, I don't want the headache. So you guys get the night off. You don't have to come to work this week. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And every time we hear about or read about something like this, I'm going to repeat myself and say the same thing. It is ridiculous. The idea that Kenny Omega, because the Young Bucks, they don't have a major match on this show. Kenny Omega is in what is apparently going to be the main event. Supposedly, that's going to be the headline match on the show on Sunday. Is Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay. And the idea that Kenny Omega is not on the show live like everybody else was, like Jon Moxley and Bryan Danielson and Okada and everybody else, Adam Cole, MJF, that Omega isn't there because of this nonsense is just ridiculous. They did the pre-tape, but there was no reason he couldn't be there live in person. Either that or Tony Khan is just, he was deathly afraid by the reaction they might get in front of the Chicago crowd. Why would you be afraid? Who cares? They go out there and get booed. Who cares? Who cares? That's why you keep them off the show? That's a cowardly thing to do. I hope that was not the reason why he kept them off the show, because he was worried about the crowd reaction. That would be a cowardly thing for him to do. Now, after that, it was right into the next segment. It was right into the concourse where Jeff Jarrett and Mark Briscoe were ready for their concession stand brawl. This was in the spirit of the old Tupelo concession stand brawl from 45 fucking years ago, however many years ago, well, a long time ago, long ass time ago, down in Memphis. Paul Turner was the referee. He was standing between them. There was some distance between the two men. But Paul Turner was basically standing right between them. And he was looking at somebody, whether it was the cameraman or somebody, to feed him his cue to start the match. He was waiting for the high sign. And finally he got it, and the fight was on. Briscoe ran Jarrett into a table that he had taken and leaned up against a concrete column. I was going to say pillar. I guess that would make it the fifth pillar, technically. Mark squirted mustard on Jeff after that, and Jeff threw hot dogs at Briscoe, which, as Taz pointed out on commentary, you can call them hot dogs, you can call them frankfurters. It's a meat of many names. Then they were spraying condiments on each other, and Taz said, you got to make sure that you always use a condiment. Very true. Very true. The last thing you want to do is, go in dry to a meal like that. I mean, come on, right? Anyway, that's what Bearwolf was saying in the chat before. Dixie Khan says Bearwolf. Who was it, by the way, in the chat before who mentioned that it was their 40th birthday? Was it Bearwolf or was it somebody else? I forgot who it was. Whoever it is, happy early 40th birthday to whoever you are. I forgot exactly which one of you it was. So anyway, Mark was squirting mustard on Jeff. As I said, he had hot dogs thrown at him. A woman, all of a sudden, wearing a surgical mask appears. And she squirts ketchup in Mark Briscoe's face, blinding him. Then she removed the mask. She pulled the mask off to reveal Karen Jarrett. She was there, and Mark battled back. He laid Jeff on top of a table. And then he grabbed a ladder to climb, because there was a ladder that just so happened to be there, leaning up against the wall. How convenient. Oh, it is Bearwolf. Bearwolf says that he turns 40 in an hour. All right, so old man Bearwolf, you're not old for another 60 minutes or so. Talk to me in an hour. Briscoe's climbing this ladder, and all of a sudden a man in a hood climbs the other side of the ladder, and he shoves Briscoe off through the table. Jarrett got up and moved out of the way, and Mark Briscoe takes a bump down through the table. And the man in the hood reveals himself to be Sanjay Dutt. That took us into the picture-in-picture break. Throughout the break, they fought their way back into the arena, down through the crowd, into the ring. When they came back, Briscoe was getting his ass handed to him in the ring by Jarrett, Jay Lethal, Sanjay Dutt. And it's all legal in a match like this. Jay Lethal went to go grab the table from the timekeeper's area when Papa Briscoe stood up. Papa Briscoe just so happened to be sitting there, I guess, in a disguise. What is with the people in disguises on this show? There were at least 3 instances, I think, right? 2 or 3 of people wearing some sort of disguise on this show. Is it Halloween and nobody told me? So Papa Briscoe stands up, and he grabs Jay by the throat. He chokeslams Jay Lethal through the table. Jay Lethal took a great bump for it. Papa Briscoe got into the ring. At that point, he ended up taking a low blow from Karen Jarrett. That put down poor Papa Briscoe. Papa Briscoe will not be siring any more young Briscoes from this point forward. Mark went for the Jay Driller. Jeff blocked it. Looked like they were waiting on someone or something, and sure enough, here comes Satnam Singh into the ring, and he chokeslammed Mark Briscoe. Christopher Daniels, Trent Beretta, Chuck Taylor, they all ran out. They got beaten up by Satnam Singh at ringside. Now here comes Rey Fenix and Penta. It's just the revolving door, I guess, of wrestlers here on this show so far. Here come the Lucha Bros, the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Champions, down to the ring. And the four of the baby faces, they threw simultaneous super kicks at Satnam Singh. Phoenix hit a springboard dive from the ring onto Singh to take him down. Inside, Penta super kicked Jarrett, and then Mark Briscoe rolled up old Double J for the pin. We had interference. I counted this. We had interference by 7 people in this match alone. 7 people, okay, in this match. Plus 2 in the opener on this show. So that makes a total of 9. And if you want to throw in Punk and Starks and FTR, that makes 13 total. 13. That's a lot of run-ins on the first 2 segments of the show. We're only 2 segs into this show. 13 run-ins. It's unbelievable. I mean, it is just, it's like they're trying to set some sort of record. Now, look, it was fun for what it was. When they first announced the match, I was actually really looking forward to it because I remember the first time I watched that concession stand brawl from the Tupelo one. It was on YouTube a few years ago, and I said, man, this is fucking madness, right, this match. And I said, well, you know what? If they're going to brawl out on the concessions and they're going to go to different parts of the building, right, or go all around the concessions, and maybe they'll hit the merch stand, they'll hit the fucking food vendors, you know, it could be fun. And Mark Briscoe, he's always fun to watch. And they end up spending most of the match in the ring. Maybe half of this, not even half of this, was actually in the concession stand. So that was disappointing. It just turned into a regular no-holds-barred match in the ring. That's not what I wanted to see. You promised me a concession stand brawl. So this could have been more than what it was. I was actually left disappointed by this. Now we go backstage to the Blackpool Combat Club. And we see Jon Moxley. Jon Moxley is holding court. And with them, with Moxley and with Danielson and with Claudio and with Yuta, are Don Callis and Konosuke Takeshita. And I want to show you this image here on your screen. If you are fortunate enough to be watching the video version of this review, take a look at Konosuke Takeshita in his spiffy new leather jacket looking like the Fonz. He just had, the only thing missing is he's got to take his 2 thumbs. That's it. Look at this guy. He really does fit in. I will say he fits in with the Blackpool Combat Club very well. Moxley issued a challenge to a 5-on-5 match with the Elite at Forbidden Door. And they're going to have Takeshita with them. So that will be 4. Because remember, Danielson's already occupied, right? He's going to be occupied with Okada. So the 5 would be Moxley, Yuta, Claudio, Takeshita, and according to Moxley, old Shooter, his protege from New Japan, Shota Umino. So that makes 5. Moxley said the Rainmaker will have a nightmare on Sunday thanks to the best wrestler in the world. And Danielson said he challenged Okada to a face-to-face tonight, but he's hearing that Okada is not even in the building. So when they step in the ring, Danielson said he'll prove Okada is nothing more than an amateur. If Okada does not answer his call-out tonight, he will prove he is not only an amateur, but he is a coward as well. And we made it to the next match here, which was a trios match. It was Chris Jericho, Sammy Guevara, and Murder Grandpa back on Dynamite. It's been a while. Minoru Suzuki taking on Action Andretti, Darius Martin, and AR Fox. And yes, when Suzuki made his way down to the ring, he played Kazani Nare, and the crowd sang along with him. Even Chris Jericho could not help but crack a smile. Always fun to see the full entrance on TV. So Excalibur asked Tony Schiavone if he ever thought that he would see Suzuki teaming with Jericho and Guevara, forgetting that they were a team last year at the Forbidden Door show. So that was a rare flub by Excalibur. No matter what you think of Excalibur as an announcer, whether you love him, whether you hate his guts, The one thing about him is he's got a lot of knowledge in his brain. He's always rattling off facts and figures and records and all sorts of information. So that was a rare flub on his part by the man in the mask. Guevara and Andretti, they had a very fast opening sequence before Suzuki and Martin tagged in, and Suzuki was daring Martin to chop him. Suzuki, he was just eating them. He was eating chops, and then he dropped Martin with some very wicked forearms. Jericho and Suzuki double-team Darius Martin briefly. And then the best part of the entire match, they get Darius Martin down, and they do the Les Sex Gods pose that normally we see Jericho and Sammy Guevara doing. Well, instead of Jericho and Sammy Guevara, who have been having some issues of late, they had Minoru Suzuki do the Les Sex Gods pose with Chris Jericho. And it was a great moment, and we got to see part of it, but it would have been even better had the camera not cut away just as Suzuki was going in to do the pose. Why would you do that? So we never got an actual hard camera view of the two of them posing. We got another cameraman. Thankfully, they cut to show kind of a side view of it. But that was a very strange place to have the camera cut away when they're doing this incredible pose that I never thought I would see in my entire life. Fox made the hot tag to Action Andretti, who fought off Jericho, and he nearly beat Jericho the same way that he did the very first time they shared the ring together, when he pinned Chris Jericho, if you remember, with that running shooting star press. So that was a nice little callback there for a near fall. The match broke down with Suzuki planting Fox with a Gotch-style pile driver. Darius ran wild on Jericho, who blocked a dive from him, and as he blocked the dive, he then turned it into a lion tamer for the submission win. After the match, Renee got into the ring to interview Chris Jericho. She asked Jericho about being face-to-face with Sting for the first time on television last week. Jericho ripped the microphone out of her hand, called it a monumental moment in wrestling history. He said everyone was excited except for him. He was not excited by this. He said he's known Sting for a long time, and he called him selfish and egotistical. Jericho said he claims to be a hero to millions, and yet he just shows up wherever the highest bid comes from. He called Sting a whore. What did he call Sting? Mr. Cifaretto? He called him a hoa. I can't believe that. He called Sting a hoa on live television. That's terrible. Terrible. Jericho challenged Sting and Darby Allin, though, to go find a partner to face him, Sammy, and Suzuki at Forbidden Door. So Sting's music played. Here he comes in his bomber jacket. He's coming down to the ring with Darby. Darby's with him. So he goes face-to-face with Jericho, and we get a holy shit chant that breaks out from the crowd. Sting put his arm around Jericho like they're fast friends, and he asked him, why are you so uptight? Jericho pulled away. Sting said that last week was a moment, but a moment is not enough. Sting said that he plans to have some time with him. He needs time with Jericho, and he plans to have time with him because he and Darby accept Jericho's, quote, lame challenge. If it's so lame, why would he accept? I don't want to see the match. Now he said it's lame. So he accepts his lame challenge. Darby said that Jericho has made a lot of enemies in a lot of places, and said they have just the guy to be their partner at Forbidden Door. Jericho demanded to know who it is. Darby revealed, you'll find out at Collision. And he dropped the microphone, and he and Sting left. And the crowd did not like that at all. The Chicago fans were not happy that he pulled out on them like that at the last second. They booed when they realized that they were not going to find out who the partner was. It was a smart hook, though. It is a smart hook for Collision on Saturday. That was a smart move. I am figuring that it's got to be somebody from Jericho's past in New Japan. It's a joint show with AEW and New Japan. We have Suzuki on one side, so it would only make sense for it to be another New Japan roster member on the other side. Now, if you look at all of the men that Jericho has worked with and all the people from his past in Japan, we know it's not going to be Omega. We know it's not going to be Tanahashi. And we know it's not going to be Okada. right? Right off the bat, we know those three are out of contention. And it better not be fucking Evil. So that only leaves one, which is Naito. Tetsuya Naito has no match on Forbidden Door. So I figure it's going to be Naito with Sting and Darby on Sunday at Forbidden Door. But, here we are. They're really doing something with Jericho and Sting. We've had the confrontation in the ring face-to-face. Now they're going to share the ring in a match for the first time ever on Sunday, which is pretty cool. And my guess is they're saving the singles match for Wembley Stadium. Because really, when you think about what is Sting going to do on that show, it could always do another multi-man match. And I know Sting has said he really doesn't want to do singles matches at this stage of his career. But I'm shocked. I'm stunned it's taken this long for Jericho to get the match with Sting, which I'm sure he's wanted for a very long time. And Sting is winding down. We still don't know exactly when, but he's winding down. It's his last contract. The place to do it, and I'm not sure if this is going to be the retirement match or not. They could save the retirement match for Full Gear. It may not be at Wembley Stadium, but the biggest possible stage would be Wembley in front of 70,000 people. I mean, we'll see. They've got about 66,000, I want to say. In the range, I think, of 66,000 tickets sold without any matches announced. Once they start announcing matches for All In, they'll start selling some more tickets. They may end up between 70 and 75,000 people. What bigger stage for Sting's final match than All In? And it could very well be one-on-one against Chris Jericho. So, we'll see. We'll see when they decide to do it. But I assume they're saving the eventual singles match for a bigger show. We went to the back where we had Tony Schiavone and RJ City, and they had the old Royal Rumble tumbler with a bunch of names inside. This was for the blind draw tag team tournament. The winners of this tournament will get an AEW World Tag Team Championship match. So they were spinning, and they were going to pick the first two names. And Tony opened the first ball, and then he opened the second ball. And then he didn't tell us who the names were. He just said that the tournament, we'll find out the brackets for the tournament next week. But he picked the balls and then didn't tell us who they were. So then we had a segment that was very likely taped last week with the Elite. This was their sole appearance on the show tonight. It was not in front of the live audience because they weren't there. They were not in Chicago tonight. Or if they were out hiding in their cars with the doors locked. So we had Kenny Omega, Hangman Page, and the Young Bucks talking about the Blackpool Combat Club's challenge that Jon Moxley had issued earlier in the show. Hangman said that while the numbers don't look to be in their favor, they have friends all over the world. Kenny Omega said, thankfully, a lot of people hate Don Callis and Konosuke Takeshita. And at that moment, Eddie Kingston walked into the shot. Kingston said, he doesn't like the Elite. He hates Claudio more. So he'll team with the Elite, but he gets to pick the final name, the final partner. He gets to pick that person's name. And the Elite accepted those terms, and Kingston walked away. He should have announced CM Punk. I mean, what a missed opportunity right there. Imagine, Eddie Kingston's like, fuck it, I'm going to go into business for myself here, and just have him announce CM Punk. How great would that have been? How great would that be? The fans would have shit themselves. And so would the Young Bucks. This was I want to point this out now. This was 3 straight segments on this show up to this point here. 3 straight segments with them withholding announcements from the audience. 3. We had the Darby tease for Collision, which was smart. Okay, like I said, that's very smart. Way to hook people in to tune into Collision on Saturday. But they had the Darby tease for Collision, and then we got the other 2 announcements later in the show. So I do want to point that out, that the Darby thing is what I would have done. And Eddie Kingston announcing the partner and the names of the people from the Tumblr. We did eventually get that information in the show. But this is one of those formatting things that I look at and I just scratch my head. Like, why would you run these segments back to back to back like that? Where you're teasing an announcement and you don't give it to the audience. If you want to do it, you can spread it out, break it up. You don't need to have all 3 segments back to back to back like That's just a very strange formatting decision there. Then we had Adam Cole. Adam Cole came down to the ring to talk about his Eliminator match with MJF on television last week. And he came out and said he had to give the devil his due. That it was one of the toughest matches of his entire career. He did everything in his power, he said, to beat MJF last week, but he didn't win. Cole noted that MJF did not win the match either, though. And he said that it was the smart yet cowardly thing to do when MJF declined to extend the match by 5 more minutes. Was it, though? Was it, though? I mean, put yourself in his position if you're the champion, right? You're committed to a match that has a 30-minute time limit that was announced before the match. Time expires. You almost lost your championship. It was close. You were saved by the bell, right? But you wrestled the full 30 minutes, and you weren't beaten for your belt. Is it really cowardly? The time expired, dude. It was up to you to beat him. If you wanted a shot at the championship, you had to beat MJF within the allotted period of time. MJF doesn't have to beat you. It's the same as if the title were on the line. He doesn't have to beat you. You have to beat him. Adam Cole failed to beat MJF in those 30 minutes. I don't see anything cowardly about it. Nothing wrong with it to me. Maybe I'm just a heel at heart. MJF comes out to the ring. He told the fans to keep their poor mouths shut when the champion is speaking. They told him to shut the fuck up in response. Keep it classy, Chicago. Keep it classy. So MJF congratulated Cole because last week he said the Panama Playboy came back. It was the Adam Cole of old. This was the Adam Cole that he was hoping to see. It's almost like a same storyline on Raw with Seth Rollins and Finn Balor, where Seth Rollins has been getting his ass kicked by Balor. Balor beat him up again on NXT Tuesday night. And Rollins' whole thing is, this is the Finn Balor I've been waiting 7 years to see. This is the Finn Balor of old that I was hoping to bring out. And that's what MJF was saying here about Adam Cole. We got the old Adam Cole back. Said he was better than ever. And he took credit for dragging that old Adam Cole out of his, scrawny body last week. But he said he's worried about him. He suffered a lot of blows to the head. Last week, he even lost track of time, he said. And everyone knows that if the time had not expired last week, he would have had him beat. And he said as far as a rematch is concerned, as a close personal friend of his, because he is concerned for the man, and concerned about his well-being, to a rematch, he says no. By the way, I gotta make mention here. I gotta make mention, who was it in the Steven? I want to make mention of Steven. Steven, I didn't even have that on the brain, but Steven points out, he goes, am I thinking about Bret Hart from WrestleMania 12 as well? I was not thinking about Bret Hart from WrestleMania 12, but that is actually a great example to give. Same concept. Bret Hart did not have to beat Shawn Michaels in the Iron Man match. Shawn Michaels had to beat Bret Hart. They had 60 minutes. He had 60 minutes to get it done, and he didn't do it. Bret took his title. He's walking out. All of a sudden, Gorilla Monsoon comes out. The match has to go to sudden death. Bret got jobbed. He didn't do anything wrong. He survived the 60 minutes. He did what he was supposed to do. Bullshit. So you're right. That's another great example. I was not thinking about Bret. No one believes me. I was not thinking about Bret. But that's another great example. So Cole said, all right. MJF said no to the rematch. He goes, I figured you would say that. So I have an idea to get you to change your mind. How about I fight you right now and I whoop your ass in Chicago? And fans like that idea. All of a sudden, Tony Schiavone stands up. They cut to Tony. And Tony stands up at the announce desk. He's got a microphone in his hand. And, of course, his microphone didn't work at first. It wouldn't be an AEW show without some audio problems. So the microphone, we can hear him, but the live crowd can't. And they quickly fixed it. So thankfully it didn't linger for too long. Now finally everybody can hear Tony. And Tony says that, he has an announcement to make. And both Adam Cole and MJF at the exact same time said, "Shut up, Shivani." Tony mentioned having drawn names earlier in the show from the Tumblr for the tag team Eliminator, which is coming up. He revealed that the first name he drew from the Tumblr was Adam Cole. And then, of course, he revealed the second name from the Tumblr was MJF. And both men freaked out. Both men were not happy about this. Adam Cole says, no, absolutely not. I am not teaming with this man. But MJF had the line of the night. His response to Shivani was fantastic. He's flipping out, and he just goes, "You want me to wrestle every week? Are you out of your mind? Are you some kind of sick pervert?" He couldn't believe that he was being asked to wrestle multiple times in a given month. Every now and then we'll get one MJF match in a month, right? We don't even get one MJF match every single month. We'll get the odd MJF match occasionally. The idea of him having to wrestle every single week is such a foreign concept to him. It's just something he hasn't done in this company before. He was mortified by this. All of a sudden, Hiroshi Tanahashi appears up on the big screen in a pre-taped promo with subtitles. He called MJF a coward while asking, "What kind of a champion are you?" He dared MJF to show up at Forbidden Door so he could show him the strength of New Japan and the Ace. And MJF made a comment about Tony Khan and his this being his dog and pony show. He said, "I already said no to you." He already rejected Tanahashi's offer of a match last week. So Adam Cole questions whether MJF, the reason that he says no to Tanahashi is that he fears Tanahashi. And that he fears Tanahashi is better than him. And he led the crowd in chanting "coward" at MJF. MJF said that if Tanahashi wanted him at Forbidden Door, the match was on. It was just that easy. It was just that simple. We go from no match to Adam Cole going, "Oh, you must be afraid of this guy." And MJF flips out and says, "I'm not afraid. I accept." And normally, even though he's a heel, normally MJF is a lot smarter than that, but not this time. Not this time. He was a total moron here in this segment. He got played by Adam Cole. Now, we knew the match was going to happen. They wouldn't have teased it in the first place if we weren't going to get it. We just didn't know how they were going to go about getting MJF to agree to the match. This was pretty weak, though. I mean, come on. MJF, I mean, I know he's a heel and everything, but he's a smart guy. He's a smart guy. If you're going to outsmart somebody, you can do a better job than that. This was too easy. And they are, by the way, going the Battle Bowl route for the Blind Eliminator Tag Team Tournament, or as I guess we would call it these days, the Can They Coexist tournament. This whole tournament is going to be Can They Coexist? MJF and Adam Cole, can they coexist? In this case, though, I think it'll be fun with these two. They have to find a way to drag this out somehow. Because we're going to get MJF and Adam Cole at some point in a rematch. Can they drag this out to All In or All Out? If they want to, yeah, they can. But that's still 2.5 months away. But if they're going to hold off on doing the match, they have to do something with them in the meantime. And it's also a way to get MJF in the ring. I don't know how far, we don't have the brackets, so I don't know how deep into this tournament these two are going to go. Very possible that they turn on each other and they get bounced out of the first round. Also very possible they win and they go on to get a tag team title match with FTR. And that would be an interesting match. FTR defending against Adam Cole and MJF. I kind of want to see them win. I kind of want to see them go to the finals and win now. So I think it's a smart way to keep the two of them, linked in some way until you actually get the rematch done. After this, we had Orange Cassidy and Katsuyori Shibata, the AEW International Champion, the Ring of Honor Pure Champion, taking on the New Japan Television Champion. So many champions here. Everybody in this match was a champion except Daniel Garcia, this poor fucker. Daniel Garcia, the only man without a title here in this match. It was Garcia and Zack Sabre Jr. Every time I see Shibata in the ring, it just amazes me because he did miss so many years with such a serious, potentially life-threatening injury. And now he's eased his way back in, but he's back in the ring wrestling matches, They may not be strong style New Japan main event 30-minute long matches with people like, Okada and Sonata and Ospreay and people like that, but just to get Shibata back in the ring at all is pretty miraculous. And it's very cool to see him doing his thing and able to be as healthy as he is and get back in the ring, and looks like he hasn't really missed a beat. Cassidy and Shibata, they had their opponents seated in opposite corners of the ring, and they hit stereo drop kicks. Cassidy followed with a dive onto Sabre at ringside. Shibata got a near fall on Garcia, who came right back and applied his Dragon Tamer. Shibata countered that into a heel hook. Sabre broke it up. Cassidy put Sabre down with a DDT. Shibata put Garcia down with a sleeper hold and then fought off Zack Sabre. Cassidy threw an orange punch. The orange punch was meant for Daniel Garcia. Garcia ducked it, though, and Orange Cassidy ended up striking Shibata with the punch instead. Sabre held Cassidy. Garcia rolled up Shibata, and he pinned him. So the heels won the match. Shibata took the losing fall here in this match. Now, when the match was over, Garcia and Sabre, they grabbed the AEW International title, and they were tussling over it. They were tugging on it back and forth. Excalibur pointed out, hey, there's a graphic in the corner of the screen. Again, they just threw it on screen as a graphic, and Excalibur was like, oh, look. Look at that, everybody. Look what popped up in the corner of the screen. I'm being told it's been made official by Tony Khan, and just like that, we have a four-way. For Forbidden Door, it is for the international title. Orange Cassidy is going to be defending against all three men: Shibata, Garcia, and Zack Sabre Jr. And I'm sure that this fucker will find a way, yet again, to retain his title. Shibata already has the Ring of Honor Pure title. Zack Sabre already has the New Japan Television title. Daniel Garcia is the only one without a belt. After this long run that Orange Cassidy has been on, do we really see Daniel Garcia being the one to end this run that he's been on and be the one to take the international title? I don't. So he's going to win again. He is going to find a way to win yet again. I'm telling you, he's going to find a way to win. He's going to move on. He's going to still be the champion when that pay-per-view is over. The match itself, though, I think will be excellent. But again, it's just funny to me how the graphic pops up on screen. Oh, look what we have now. We have another match added to Forbidden Door, just like that. The finish of the match, as far as Shibata being the one to, take the fall. And the other reason I don't see Garcia winning at Forbidden Door, it seems like they're setting up Garcia and Shibata for the Ring of Honor Pure title, probably at the next Ring of Honor pay-per-view. So there really is just no obvious winner in that match other than the champion retaining. It would surprise me. It would very much surprise me if anybody else walked out with that international title on Sunday. So then we go to the back, and we have a very excited Alex Marvez. He's been waiting to get this interview, and he's in the parking lot area as Will Ospreay has arrived. I'm not sure why. He was just arriving at the building. He wasn't on the show otherwise. Although maybe he's there. Maybe he's there for Rampage. I wrote down the... Again, I wrote down the Rampage matches, and the only thing I remember about Rampage is that they said MJF will be on Rampage. For the first time in his entire career, MJF is going to be on Rampage on Friday. Other than that, I've already forgotten everything they announced. So anyway, he goes over to Ospreay. He asked him what he was thinking heading into his big match with Kenny Omega for the IWGP US title on Sunday. Ospreay claimed he needed more security based on some of the things people have been sending him on social media. And at that point, Don Callis arrived. And he said that AEW, they're not going to do anything about it. He healed on the people of Toronto and talked about what terrible human beings they are. He said he has his own private security, and he would loan them out to Will Ospreay in Toronto. And Ospreay said, well, what's in it for you? And Callis claimed he just wanted to see a fair fight and see Kenny Omega get beat. He's been talking, by the way, about expanding his family. teasing the idea that beyond Takeshita, there could be more people recruited, that he might be starting his own faction. He might be starting his own group. Maybe he can do Truth Commission 2.0. He has experience leading factions in the past. We got a video package that ended with Toni Storm, the announcement that Toni Storm will be defending her Women's World Championship at Forbidden Door against the New Japan Strong Women's Champion, Willow Nightingale. And, of course, that probably would have been the spot that Mercedes Moné would have been in. Had Mercedes won the championship last month, as she was supposed to, it looks like it would have been Toni Storm against Mercedes on this show, most likely. I know some people wanted to see Mercedes and Jamie Hayter. That was before, Jamie lost her title and she's all banged up right now. Then Mercedes got hurt. But it looks like that probably would have been the match had Mercedes not gotten hurt. So anyway, now this, again, just kind of thrown out there last minute, Toni Storm and Willow at Forbidden Door. Speaking of the ladies, we had Kris Statlander defending her TBS championship against Taya Valkyrie. Statlander mowed down Valkyrie with a shoulder tackle early in the match. But as Statlander charged, Valkyrie just slapped the taste right out of her mouth. Both ladies traded more chops until Valkyrie put together a series of kicks, only to get low-bridged to the floor by Statlander. And at that point, Kris Statlander gets out on the apron. And she hits a standing shooting star from the apron to the floor. And when she did this, I feared for her knees as I watched her fall to the ground. Number one, I feared for her knees. Number two, it did not hit the mark. It did not look good. I'm not sure when she was trying that move even before she got hurt, that it was always connecting and looking good. That might be one she wants to, kind of leave in her bag of tricks and find something different. But she took too long to send Valkyrie back into the ring, and then she ended up eating a shotgun dropkick back to the floor. That put Taya in control heading into the commercial. After a break, both women connected with high kicks at the same time into a double down. Statlander fought back with a running corner knee and a spinning fisherman's driver for 2. Valkyrie countered Statlander's finish with a double arm underhook driver for 2 of her own. The champ missed a clothesline, and Taya hit a spear, followed by a sliding German, with Statlander tied up in the ropes. Valkyrie went up top, but Statlander cut her off with a superplex, and then Statlander connected with her Wednesday Night Fever to retain the TBS championship. A few bumps in the road here. This was not a great match. It had its moments, but this was not... I didn't feel this was Statlander's strongest match, since she came back. She's had better matches than this, which was surprising. I mean, given the talent involved, I don't know, maybe my expectations were just... clearly my expectations were higher for this. The thing that I was confused by is why they even did this match on this show. They've been teasing for a few weeks now that Taya has been upset. Probably feels like Statlander kind of jumped in line. She lost at Double or Nothing, and then here comes Statlander, and she gets a title match, and she wins, and that should have been her. It's like Dolph, right? It should have been me. It should have been me. So they've been building this for a few weeks now, but why not save this until next week's show? Let's get past Forbidden Door. Neither woman is even, I think, scheduled for a match on the card. Why do this match now on the Go Home Dynamite before a pay-per-view they're not even on? So I just thought the placement of the match, doing it this week, was weird. It wasn't necessary to do it this week when you could have built it for next week's Dynamite, coming out of the pay-per-view. So then we get to the end of the show, and in the ring is Eddie Kingston. The Mad King thanks the crowd for their reaction and get a shirt.
It's the amazing Gunther. Jerry Lawler loves Gunther the Magnificent. All hail Gunther.
Hey, it's John with the $50 Gunther bomb. I've not seen Gunther in a week. I thought he left us. I thought he went on vacation. He took off without me, this fucker. Hey, John, man, thank you for the $50. That's very cool. No message, just a show of support here on the channel. That is very cool. John, I appreciate that very much. You're awesome. There you go. So yeah, we do. We have some Gunther super chats there, or not super chats, but emojis. There you go. There's John. There's John. Did a $50 super chat. Didn't really have a message. Just wanted to donate to show my appreciation. It is definitely recognized, my friend. I appreciate that very much. So Eddie had a shirt. And he said he excused himself and said, "Don't mind me. I just had surgery," and which he did. He had hernia surgery, and he says he's been eating a lot of ice cream, so had to put a shirt on here at the beginning of this promo. He said he's out here because the Elite decided to leave since he said he doesn't respect them. That's a pretty lame fucking excuse. So that was their excuse for why the Elite were not live in the ring on this show. They were not live in the building. Eddie Kingston disrespected them in the pre-tape in the back, and so they decided to leave. That was the best they could come up with. Kingston said there are a lot of things going on that he doesn't agree with, including someone who he thought was his homeboy. But despite not liking the Bucks, he hates Claudio Castagnoli more. I mean, this guy hates Claudio with the fire of 1,000 suns. He hates this man. He says he hates them more than he hates the Bucks. He hates him more than he hates the Bucks. Jon Moxley suddenly appears in the crowd. He's by himself. Moxley and Kingston, obviously, they were friends, right? They are friends. Moxley comes down, he gets into the ring, and he says Kingston is drawing a line at Forbidden Door. Kingston interrupted him. It got a little chaotic here in the pro. It felt like a real back and forth shouting match between two old friends. And Kingston wanted Moxley to say something. He kept telling him. But because he wouldn't, Kingston said, you know what? He just said, fuck it. The fifth man, the partner in the match at Forbidden Door, it's Ishii. And, Ishii got a pretty good reaction from the crowd. And out comes the Stone Pitbull, Tomohiro Ishii from New Japan Pro Wrestling. He makes his way. Now, as he's coming down to the ring, Moxley and Claudio and Wheeler Yuta and Danielson's in the ring. They already put the boots to Eddie Kingston. So here comes Ishii to get in on the fighting. And so that happens, and Danielson now grabs the microphone. And Bryan Danielson said that if Okada is not showing up, he's going to stomp Ishii's face in. And they have Ishii. They have him hooked. Danielson is threatening this guy, and now we hear the coin drop. This now, when I said Ishii came out, he got a respectful reaction. He got a nice reaction. But when the coin drop happened, then the place went nuts because they know that Okada, he's a big name. To these people who know who a lot of at least the key New Japan talents are, they know Okada very well. Okada is a big deal. He is a big star to them. He came out, he was, in street clothes. He was in a t-shirt. He wasn't in his Rainmaker robe or anything like that. But he comes running to the ring and he goes face to face with Bryan Danielson for the first time ever. And the crowd was hyped for this. So was I. Again, this is a match that when Danielson left WWE, this was the match I was hoping to see. And there were a lot of people that he said he wanted to work with, and he worked with Omega, right? His first match in AEW at Arthur Ashe Stadium. He, at one point, was saying he wants to work, I think he said he wanted to do a hair match with Atlantis in Mexico for, like, CMLL. Like, there were all these people that Bryan wanted to work with. But the match with Okada is the one that I was hoping for. I was hoping he would go to Japan. He still hasn't done that. We still haven't seen Danielson in Japan since he left WWE or at the Tokyo Dome or in the G1 or anything like that. But this is a match that I have been waiting a very long time to see. And clearly so were a lot of these fans. Yuta attacked Okada from behind as Danielson was then getting ready to hit his running knee. He came charging in. Okada moved out of the way. Danielson wiped out Yuta instead. And Okada then grabbed Danielson. He went for the Rainmaker, and Danielson ducked it, and he got the hell out of the ring. This left poor Yuta, the little shit, as Danielson would call him, to take the Rainmaker. He took a pretty safe Rainmaker. He didn't turn him inside out or anything, but pretty standard stuff here. And Okada stood tall as Danielson was on the ramp. They had a faraway stare down here. So very cool to see Okada make another appearance on Dynamite. He did last year as well in the lead up to Forbidden Door. And look, the two key matches on the show on Sunday are the matches that I am most looking forward to. If you didn't build out an entire card around these matches, to me, this pay-per-view would still be worth it for those two matches alone. Now, if you're not a fan of New Japan, if you don't know who any of these people are, this is not the show for you. This is what I tried to explain to people on social media a few weeks ago when they were saying, where's the story? What's the story between these two men? I don't know what the story is between Danielson and Okada. There's no story. Mommy, read me a story. The story was outlined in the video that dropped when the announcement was made, but people don't pay attention to these things. If it's not built up the way the WWE builds up their pay-per-view matches, it's just like a foreign concept to them. It's a very simple concept. You have two wrestlers who have been recognized by a lot of people as two of the best wrestlers of their generation. As far as in-ring performers are concerned, big-time main event matches, whether it's in Japan, whether it's in the United States, their credentials speak for themselves. They are two of the best workers of all time. And they want to wrestle each other to find out who is the better of the two. Who is the best wrestler in the world? That's the story. That's all the story needs to be. There doesn't have to be a championship on the line. There doesn't have to be anyone's hair on the line. It's all about bragging rights. Who is the best? It's such a simple concept. That's the story. So I'm very much looking forward to that. Now I'm going to attempt to do the impossible here. And I'm going to go through all of the matches that were previewed for Rampage, for Collision, and for Forbidden Door, and for Dynamite next week. So excuse me if I forgot any, but I'm pretty sure I got them all. Like fucking Pokemon, right? I'm trying to catch them all here. All right, here, Rampage. Rampage coming up on Friday. Will Ospreay, well, that explains why he was there tonight. Will Ospreay, Kyle Fletcher of Aussie Open, Jeff Cobb, and Swerve Strickland take on Rocky Romero, Chuck Taylor, Trent Beretta, and Yo. We have MJF making his very first ever appearance on Rampage. I'm sure he won't be in a very good mood. The Acclaimed and Billy Gunn will be in action against who we don't know. We will hear from Adam Cole. Jungle Boy takes on Dookie of Just Five Guys, which is the faction that the IWGP World Heavyweight Champion Sonata is part of. Of course, Sonata is defending against Jungle Boy on Sunday. Anna Jay and Sky Blue will have their match in the Owen Hart tournament. Okay, so that's Rampage coming up on Friday. Then we move on to Collision on Saturday. CM Punk, FTR, and Ricky Starks take on Switchblade Jay White, Juice Robinson, and the Guns. Hiroshi Tanahashi will be wrestling Swerve Strickland. Low key, that should be, not low key the wrestler, I'm saying low key, that could end up being one of the better matches of the entire weekend. Christian Cage is going to address the TNT title. I don't know what that means. Is he literally going to address the belt? It would be kind of funny if he comes out and he was so happy when Luchasaurus won the belt last weekend and he took it as if it were his own. Maybe he'll caress it. Maybe he'll talk to it as if it's actually a living being. Maybe that's what they mean when he addresses the TNT title. We will also find out who Sting and Darby Allin's partner will be at Forbidden Door. Brody King takes on Andrade El Idolo, and Willow Nightingale will take on Nyla Rose in an Owen Hart tournament match. Then we get to Forbidden Door on Sunday night from Toronto. Just about sold out. Last update I saw, I want to say they had 60 tickets, somewhere in the range, I think, of 60 tickets or so available left for that. So basically the show is sold out. They opened some more seats. Those seats will be gone. The show is, for all intents and purposes, sold out. Bryan Danielson against Kazuchika Okada. Kenny Omega defends the IWGP US title against Will Ospreay. MJF defends the AEW World Heavyweight Championship against Hiroshi Tanahashi. Tony Storm defends the, I forgot one, Sonata. Sonata defends the IWGP. I almost ranked the AEW women's title over the IWGP title. The hell's wrong with me? Come on, man. Sonata defends the IWGP title against Jungle Boy. Tony Storm will put the AEW Women's World Championship on the line against Willow Nightingale. CM Punk will be wrestling Satoshi Kojima in an opening round match in the Owen Hart tournament. We have the Blackpool Combat Club with Konosuke Takeshita and Old Shooter are going to be taking on Hangman Page, the Young Bucks, Eddie Kingston, and Tomohiro Ishii. Sting, Darby Allin, and a mystery partner, probably Naito, will take on Chris Jericho, Sammy Guevara, and Minoru Suzuki. Orange Cassidy defends the international title against Katsuyori Shibata, Zack Sabre Jr., and Daniel Garcia. And on the 0 hour pre-show, the Ring of Honor Women's World Champion Athena will wrestle Billy Starks in an Owen Hart tournament match. And I could have sworn they announced, I thought they announced stuff for Dynamite next week, but I guess I didn't write it down, or maybe they didn't. Again, this show confuses me. It's weird because Dynamite last week I thought was an excellent show. And I thought Dynamite tonight was pretty fun for the most part. There was just way too much going on for my liking. Dynamite is by far, and we'll see if Collision ends up being the same way, but Dynamite by far is just my least favorite show to take notes for. I hate taking notes for this show. I hate it so much. I hate it so much. I like talking about it, like now doing the actual review and everything, but when I'm trying to get my notes together to make sure I don't miss stuff that I think might be important, it's ridiculous. It's a weird thing because Monday Night Raw on some weeks will absolutely bore me to fucking tears, like most of that show did on Monday, with the exception, I think, of the beginning and the ending. It's a pretty boring show, but it's the easiest show for me to review if I can keep myself awake. If I can stay awake during Raw, it's the easiest show to review because it moves at a glacial pace. They have 15,000 commercials, and when they come back from the commercial, even better, if I'm behind in my notes, I know I'm going to get a replay. I'm going to get 2 replays of what happened earlier in the show. It's great. If you're taking notes during the show, it's fantastic. This show, forget about it. Tony Khan, I think he just has a line laid out on the table, man. He's getting himself all psyched up for the show, man. He's got his credit card. He's got the dollar bill. He's got the table right in front of him. All right, here we go, man. Eyes bugging out of his head. Here we go. Boom, 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 boom. One segment after the other. That's Dynamite. Oh, boy. All right, here we go. Twitter poll. Let's see what the results are for the Twitter poll. What did you think of Dynamite from Chicago? 80% thumbs up. 19% thumbs down. It's actually 80.8 and 19.2. That makes 100. Get your vote in at Solomonster on Twitter. Oh, Tony Khan, man. Tony Khan, where does he get his supply from? I don't know. But his shows are very chaotic. The Snowman. How can it snow in June? Only Tony Khan can make it snow in the month of June. It is now officially summer, I believe. Was today the first day of summer? I think today was the first day of summer. Either yesterday or today. All right, we'll begin here with Naughty Delicious. Chicken with flavor. I need to say this, but I hate it when AEW always has to announce so many matches days before the pay-per-view. Just spread it out. Great minds think alike. Just to be clear, he says the Forbidden Door card is good. My issue is AEW's way of announcing multiple matches the days before the pay-per-view. Yeah, I mean, again, it's just, there's no reason for it. I assume he just didn't have the card finalized until this week, but you gotta just spread these things out. You gotta spread these things out, man. Give them time to be absorbed so people can be like, okay, all right, we have Orange Cassidy defending his title, instead of just putting a graphic up on the screen like, oh, by the way. Spread things out. Old Dirty Sausage, I know it's only been a short amount of time, but it feels like AEW has been on a roll again. Also, MJF on Rampage. Interesting. Tuxedo T Servo with the 1992. Oh, that's what I heard. Before I went live tonight, I heard Ric Flair coming through on my speaker. I didn't know what the hell was going on. So where is this coming from? Is he communicating with me from nearby? Is he in the area? And I realized it was the Super Chat plan. My eldest passed her PhD qualification exam today. They now start their research in earnest in immuno-oncology. Proud Poppy. Well, that is very cool. Congratulations to your eldest. Not only on getting their qualification, but just that's got to feel good, you know, that they're doing something like that. To be involved in that field is very cool. That's very cool. Christopher Smith with the $4.99. Fantastic Dynamite tonight. Briscoe against Jarrett was a fun car wreck of a match. Zack, Sabre, and Garcia were fun to watch. Suzuki posing with JAS was great. Chris Miner went to NXT last night. Unique, but a very fun time. Yeah, I mean, a bit like the old studio wrestling shows, I assume. I have not been to the what do they call it? The NXT zone? I mean, what? I don't even know. Do they have a name for it? I don't know. But anyway, thank you, Chris. Uffman Entertainment. Does Kenta cost Punk a match in the tournament? No, I don't think so. I think it works out the way that I pitched it. I think Punk and Joe go to the semis. I think Joe beats Punk. Gotta keep that story alive. But then Punk comes back to cost Joe in the finals, and that's how Ricky Starks ends up winning. And some people might say, well, you know, does that cheapen the win if Starks needed help to win? Yeah, maybe a little bit it does, but it's more important, I think, that he got a big win under his belt. And him winning the Owen, I think, would be the correct move. Because it's not something Punk needs, and it's not something Joe needs. Hobbs could use it, but I think it's going to go to Ricky Starks. Rodimus Prime, MJF and Adam Cole as a team for the tournament. Calling it now, not going to work. Max will find a way to stick it to Cole. Yeah, but it would be more interesting, I think, and maybe more entertaining if he's trying to throw the matches, but they keep winning anyway. Right? That would be kind of interesting. If he doesn't give a shit, he doesn't want to have anything to do with this guy. But it's almost like Cole's way of sticking it to him, even though he doesn't want to team with him either, would be they end up winning anyway. At least through the finals. Maybe they don't win the tag titles, but I think that would be the more entertaining story. Don't you think? Dan Richards, who should Tony Khan hire as his heavy to be the bad cop? He'll just use somebody that is already working. If he needs a bad cop, I mean, he could just use somebody who's already working for him behind the scenes. He should use Alex Marvez as his bad cop. There you go. Give Marvez something to do, other than his one interview a week. Chris AXC with the $5 super chat. Start trade bench cut. The best Sting theme song. And, you know, he's listing the Crow version, the TNA version, the WWE version, or the AEW version, but you're leaving out the best version. How are you going to ask me a question about Sting's theme music and the best ones and not include the best Sting theme of all? Man called Sting. He's a man called Sting. He does this. He does that. Strong as a bear and quick as a cat. Don't you dare cross him or get in his way, because if you do, you're going to have to pay to the man called Sting. Come on, man. I guess of the versions that you've listed here, I got to go Crow. I mean, Crow is the one that I would go with the Crow one first. His TNA theme was not bad. I actually liked his TNA theme. So I would go Crow, TNA, AEW, and then WWE. In that order. Christopher Smith, it's been raining for 4 days in a row straight. Because North Carolina weather makes 0 sense, kind of like some of the booking has been. Nick Grosso with the $9.99. I am looking forward to Forbidden Door this weekend, but what does Adam Cole do on the show? Maybe MJF no-shows and Cole steps in? And does Kota Ibushi make an appearance? I've thought about the Ibushi thing. I feel like they're saving him. They've made no mention of Blood and Guts. I'm not even sure they're doing a Blood and Guts. They haven't said anything about it. But let's assume they are. And that they'll end up needing a 5th person. I think you save Ibushi. You know, Ibushi does not work for New Japan, by the way. He is a free agent. So it's not a case of, well, he's a New Japan guy. No, he's not. Now, I don't know that it would be a problem if they wanted him to be on the show. I don't know. I'm going to say it's tough, though, because if they're going to headline with Omega and Ospreay, if that's the match that goes on last, that tells me that they have something big planned. And it's got to be more than just Ospreay winning the IWGP US belt back. An Ibushi return, him, reuniting with Omega in the ring, that would certainly qualify as a big moment. I just don't know that it happens on this show. I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me, but I'm not feeling like Ibushi's showing up on Sunday. As far as Adam Cole, I would expect him to make some sort of appearance, either during or after the MJF match. I don't know that he'll have any sort of direct, role. I don't think he's going to wrestle on the show, if that's what you're asking. I don't think, he's going to suddenly step in against Tanahashi. Chris AXC, because again, it would go against everything that he flipped out about in the promo, right? Where he agreed to the match because Cole was saying, oh, you think you can't beat this guy? So then for him to suddenly not show up, it wouldn't really make a whole lot of sense. Nick Grosso says, I'm looking forward to Forbidden Door this weekend. I just read Nick Grosso's. There you go. I think I got into Tony's stash. I think it's affecting my brain. Chris says, putting Solomonster on the spot. How can you boo a guy who does this and does... I know. That's why Sting was such a big babyface. That's what I mean. I can understand if you want to boo a guy who does this. And I could even understand you booing a guy who does that. How are you going to boo somebody who does this and does that? That's why Sting was so beloved. He can do it all. So Chris wants to put me on the spot here. Hey, John, thank you, man. Thank you again for that $50 super chat. Chris says, you can only watch one wrestling show all week and do only one live stream. What show do you choose? It would either be, after I just got done saying taking notes for this show is the fucking dirt worst, I would be inclined to probably say, it's only been one show. It's kind of hard to grade Collision. The first show was great. I don't know if every show will be so great. I would say either Collision or SmackDown, but those are the two worst nights of the week. Friday and Saturday in the summer. Gotta be going out and doing something, man. Come on, you gotta get out and enjoy the weather and enjoy the time of year. Plenty of wrestling to go around. You can only take so much wrestling. I can only pick one show. If it were on a different week, a different day during the week, I would probably say Collision, honestly. Bender McSimpson, great show tonight. I'm picking Zack Sabre Jr. to win the international title, and I'm very much looking forward to Swerve against Tanahashi this week. Be calm, see clearly. CM Punk talked all that just to not get 1 million viewers. That don't sit right for me, like Collision might be Rampage 2.0. That is a very premature thing to say. 800,000 viewers on a Saturday night is not a bad number. Now, if it sinks like a stone, that's going to be a problem. They're going to run into a lot of preemption issues with sports in the months ahead. So there's bad times ahead for Collision with the television schedule. But just because they didn't hit 1 million does not mean that the show is a failure. It's still a very good number and an excellent demo number. Again, the demo beat what Dynamite did last week. You know, they were third on all of cable, so you gotta recognize that's pretty good. John, who I believe is either heading out or just headed out, again with that $50 Gunther bomb. Oh my. Nick Grosso says, now that Luchasaurus is TNT champion, is he? I thought Christian Cage was. Could have fooled me. Says maybe he faces Orange Cassidy in a unification match, and that's how Cassidy finally loses and we can finally get rid of the TNT title. They're not doing a unification. Arabian Night 2000. Sucks no Shingo or Hiromu at Forbidden Door. Imagine him and Darby. Always the chance that Shingo could be their partner, but just the way they were talking about it, being Jericho has a history with people, that has me thinking it's Naito. Although, did Jericho defend the Intercontinental title against Shingo? Didn't they have a match? I thought they did. Maybe I don't remember now. But I'm still thinking it's Naito as their partner. Dylan Hensley with the $20 super chat here. Today we worked on bumping and feeding into the next spot. I'm still trying to get over my fear of hitting somebody because I'm afraid I'll hurt them. We were reminded by our trainers that you have to lay your strikes in. That's right. You got to make your shit look good, man. Come on. I don't want to see anybody on TV throwing these little light strikes, okay? You got to lay your shit in, but do it safely. Welcome to pro wrestling, right? That's the art of pro wrestling. How do you give the illusion that you are hurting your opponent, that you're in a real fight, that you hate this person, that you want to hurt and harm this person, and at the end, you don't hurt them at all. You don't harm a single hair on their head. If you can master that, then you've achieved success. Then you have figured out the art of pro wrestling. How do you make it look good and make it look real without the other person getting hurt? Only way to do it is to practice. You're gonna have to lay your strikes in. That's it. Just gotta face your fear, man. You'll be fine. I'm sure everybody who laces up a pair of boots, I would imagine, has those very same fears. If it were me, I would. Until I get popped in the mouth by somebody one day, and then that'll loosen me up real good. I'll be like, oh, okay. I see how it is. I see how it is. Sometimes you can't learn until you get popped. It's just how it works. But I always think, and I credit Bret Hart with that. I always think of what Bret said. What pro wrestling is at its core is you're giving the illusion and you're making it look as realistic as possible. But in the end, you're not hurting the other person because that's not the point. And that's, when Bret went off recently, he did an interview and he went off on Pro Wrestling Today. And he was shitting on a lot of the current stuff and the guys who just chop. And, they chop and they hit each other until they're black and blue and they have bloody welts on their body. And he just completely, shit all over it because to him, that's not what pro wrestling is. You're not supposed to do that. You're not really supposed to be hurting the other person. So, MH Nova says, Peace Solo and GWO. Am I doing DraftKings for Forbidden Door? No, I'm not. We got Groovy Goose saying, just wanted to say thanks for the streams. Thank you. Thank you, Groovy Goose. Arabian Night. You like my SummerSlam card? Roman Reigns and Jay. Rollins and Drew. Cody and Brock. Gunther and Balor. Priest and Riddle. Asuka against Flair against Bianca. Zayn and Owens against DIY. I don't know what that said. DIY ESGE and Paul. What? I don't know what that says. ESGE? Dieski? I assume that's versus DIY, but what the hell is ESGE? I have no idea what that is. And LA Knight against Theory. It's not a bad card. I think, look, Reigns and Jay, I think, is going to be the main event. Rollins and Drew is the idea that I've been pitching, with Drew coming back as a heel. Cody and Brock, we already know they're going to have a third match. Knight and Theory for the U.S. title. We'll see if Knight wins Money in the Bank, how that plays out, but I can get behind that. You know, he's getting over as a babyface. Austin Theory is doing jack shit for that U.S. title. Why not put the belt on LA Knight? Oh, okay. So, is that supposed to be Edge and Logan Paul? Okay. Well, I guess, okay. The S is supposed to be a D. You're killing me here with this autocorrect shit. Or at least put a space between these, please. Edge and Logan Paul. That's not bad. That's not bad. I could see that, yes. So I'm trying to make sense of this, and I'm like, I have no idea what you're trying to say. Christopher Smith. Start, cut, bench. Well, you love that, huh? Start, cut, bench. HBK Taker, Ground Zero. I just did that one the other day. I already did that one. Hell in a Cell is at the top there. And then WrestleMania, then Ground Zero. Dennis Diaz, what is Michael Mania? Oh, Michael Mania? It was a birthday party for a friend, a surprise party for a very important person. It was indeed Michael Mania. And that's all you need to know. Naughty Delicious Chicken with Flavor, the Good Sons scenario, Forbidden Door edition. Save one, let the other one go. Zack Sabre Jr. or Keith Lee? Gotta save Keith Lee. Gotta save Keith Lee, man. B-Money04, just wondering if you have seen the Von Wagner segment on NXT last night. That's a lot to go through as a kid. I did see that. And clearly it's been building to that. It's been building to the reveal of what those photos were of him with the scars on his head as a young child. And, you know, it was pretty powerful stuff. They even showed a photo of him with, again, his father. I always get them confused. Which one's Bo and which one's Blake? Whichever one was not Mike Enos, the other one. I always get them mixed up. But they had a photo of him with his father as well as a baby. But yeah, no, it was pretty powerful stuff in that segment. Skywalker with the 1999. Vince McMahon admitted that the only reason why the Macho Man didn't return to the WWE in 2003 was simply because Hogan politicked his way into not allowing the Macho Man, since Hogan was the old-timer in WWE. What are your thoughts? That is not why Macho Man did not come back. Macho Man not returning to WWE has nothing to do with Hulk Hogan. Skywalker, thank you. I'm sure you and I both are very sad that we never did get that Randy Savage WWE comeback, but it had nothing to do with Hogan. And BCom see clearly, I was annoyed. I work 2 jobs now with some racist and more, but I make it work. Kill them with kindness. Night Solo and monsters in the chat. Well, whoever that person is, they can go fuck themselves. How about that? I'm sorry you have to work with somebody like that, but there you go. If you can't say it because you want to be professional, I don't have to be. Tell them to go fuck themselves. That's what I say. Arabian Night. Sorry, yes, meant Edge against Logan. That's what I finally figured it out. So, yeah, it's not bad. I mean, when the draft happened, I figured that was one of the matches we would eventually get, would be Edge and Logan Paul. Just looking at the roster and other big names that Logan could work with, Edge seemed to be a natural. So yeah, no, not a bad SummerSlam card. I think there's quite a few very realistic possibilities on there. Speaking of Hogan, there's a Solomonster beating the shit out of Hulk Hogan. You're welcome. Which reminds me, Fight Forever drops next week. After 6.5 years in development. And you might be saying, how is that possible? AEW has only existed for 4 years. I know. So after 6.5 years in development, AEW Fight Forever officially drops next Thursday. It's Thursday, right? June 29th. So it's coming up. It's coming up in 1 week. Fight Forever will be released. We'll have even more content for Sound Off Gamer, plus the remainder of the My Rise on 2K23. The likes goal tonight was 400, and we are officially at 419. Oh, come on. We got to do 420. Who's going to send us to 420? I don't know. But we've crushed the goal. That's all that matters. So I thank you for that. Keep hitting that like button if you have not already done so, because it does help out the video. I do want to just mention again, as I did before, that on Sunday night, when the Forbidden Door pay-per-view comes to a close, you can come right back here to the YouTube channel, and I will have the full recap of what promises to be a very good night of wrestling. I think very good is understating how great some of these matches are going to be. If you are a fan of professional wrestling, in-ring professional wrestling, if you are a fan of New Japan, if you are a fan of any of the men that you see on your screen right now, this is going to be potentially the show of the year. It certainly has that potential to be just that. Be calm, see clearly. One last thing, Tony, slow the fuck down. I went to the bathroom, and like 3 things happened now. Good night, Solo and friends. Good night to you as well. Be calm, see clearly. Let's be the booker.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time to be the booker.
It's time to be the booker. You guys are always waiting in anticipation. What matches will Solomonster book? Will he book himself right out of his promoter's license? Or will he actually come through in the clutch and book a card that people would pay money to see? That's what we are here to find out. Can we book matches people would pay money to see? Let's kick things off with the Tribal Chief, the head of the table. And there's Jericho, the Tribal Chief. They call him Undisputed, but he is no longer the Undisputed Champion. Roman Reigns. That is how you start Be the Booker. That's how you start Be the Booker right there. Roman Reigns going on 3 years as the champion of the universe. It will be Roman Reigns going 1-on-1 with Big Daddy Cool Diesel. You know, we picked Diesel the other day, too. Diesel's been getting a lot of play here in Be the Booker. Old school Kevin Nash. Look how cool he is. You just put shades on, it automatically makes you cool. That's why Orange Cassidy is so over in AEW. Roman Reigns against Diesel. You don't think any indie promoter would love to have that match on their card? Of course they would. That would sell out the entire venue. Over on the ladies' side, we begin with Sunny, who you can have a conversation with Sunny if you fill out the visitor's log and go visit her in prison, where she will hopefully spend the rest of her days. You might be able to talk to her through the glass, if you're lucky, although I don't know why you would want to. She'll probably want you to go out and get her cigarettes or something. Fuck her. But there were a lot of people who wish they could indeed do just that 25 years ago. I was one of them. But there she is. There's Sunny. Now, let's see who Sunny is going to get into the ring with. Sunny, 1-on-1 with Renee Paquette. Yeah, It probably should have been an instant buzzer, but I wanted to give it a chance. Yeah, if it would have been like Sable, right? Because Sonny and Sable, no love lost there. I might have given that the bell. That back in the day, Sonny against Sable, that would have been kind of amusing. But yes, that is a fail. Now we move on to Tag Team Be the Booker. And as is the case many times, this is going to break the tie. We begin. Oh my God. For the second time. For the second time. This woman has appeared on my screen. It is Sunny with the Body Donnas. Skip and Zip. Skip and Zip. Look at this. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. If only her father had zipped. That man might still be alive. All right, let's see here. It's going to be the Body Donnas going one-on-one. One-on-one. Two-on-two. I can't even count. The Body Donnas. Drum roll, please. Going to be defending those tag team titles against Chris Jericho and Amish Big Show. Tell me Big Show did not look Amish during this phase when he had this look going for him. There's always something about him that it looked Amish to me. And yes, I did visit Amish country once when I was younger. That's why I call him Amish Big Show. Well, and I like, actually, Big Show and Chris Jericho as a team. But Big Show and Chris Jericho against Skip and Zip as the Body Donnas? Yeah, I don't think so. That don't work for me, brother. That don't work for me, brother. Arabian Knight wants to know, how would I book Bray's return? Could I see him against Edge? I don't even think I would book Bray's return at this point. I think the whole thing is just a lost cause. There's always some kind of problem or issue or health issue or creative issue, or it's just cut your losses and move on. Silver Tower. Oh, it's my boy Silver Tower. I've been waiting for Silver Tower here.
Too sweet to be sour. It's Silver Tower.
Silver Tower with the Super Chat says, thanks for the review. Really looking forward to Danielson against Okada. Cannot wait. You and me both, brother. I'll be right here to talk about it all late Sunday night, early Monday morning. We'll have the live review here on the channel. Naughty Delicious Chicken with Flavor. Sunny against Renee. Bret Hart as the special guest referee. I don't think Bret Hart wants to have anything to do with anyone other than his wife. Bret Hart he's in a good place now. He's living the life, man. He's got his beautiful wife. He's got his kids. Does he still have the hockey team? The Hitmen? He just opened like a bar with his likeness up in Canada somewhere. I think his son, he might be involved also, Bret, but I know his son, they're running an actual promotion, like an independent promotion up there. So Bret don't need any of the drama. Bret's good. All right, so Friday night, I'm going to be back with you for the SmackDown review, coming off that big angle they did last week where the Usos said, "We out," and they are no longer part of the Bloodline. Now we have a Bloodline Civil War coming at Money in the Bank in a couple of weeks. So what will happen? What will be on SmackDown Friday night? Hopefully LA Knight will be there. And we'll see what else they have in store for the show. Saturday, again, there will be no Collision review, but episode 814 of the podcast on Sunday. All the news of the week, plus my thoughts on the Matt Bourne episode, the Doink the Clown episode of Dark Side of the Ring, which I have not watched yet, but I will be watching it tomorrow. I'm very much looking forward to it. And then Sunday night will be Forbidden Door. Next week is looking like Raw stream on Monday night, Dynamite on Wednesday night, no SmackDown next Friday. That Saturday, is Money in the Bank. So we have Forbidden Door this weekend, but next weekend is Money in the Bank, which is on a Saturday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Well, of course, that poses a problem for Collision. Collision starts at 8. I'll probably still be streaming at 8 o'clock, so I am not covering Collision that night. You get Money in the Bank. So that's the plan over these next 2 weeks for those of you who are interested. There'll be plenty of streams, but I am going to miss the next 2 weeks of Collision. If anything interesting happens, I am sure I will talk about it on the podcast. That's what the flagship is for. So until then, be well, stay safe. Thank you for all the love. Thank you for all the super chats. We got one last one coming in. Arabian, you get the last word. It belongs to you. It says, think Bray had an out clause in case Vince McMahon came back. Vince McMahon never left. He never left. How do you have an out clause for somebody if somebody comes back when they never actually left? So no, there would not have been any such clause in his contract. It was voided when Vicente McMahon arrived. Is it his evil twin? No. He never left to begin with. I just talked on Sunday. It was 1 year since that first Wall Street Journal story broke. And here we are a year later. I mean, Triple H ascended to a creative position now that he didn't have before. So there were some changes that were made. But at the end of the day, the king is still on his throne. And in that respect, nothing has really changed 1 year later. He's as bulletproof now as it felt like he was before then. His buddy Ari Emanuel is going to be taken over soon and said he would only do so if Vince came along for the ride. I want Vince there. I'm not doing this deal without Vince. So he's not going anywhere. But I will be here with you on Friday. I'll see you then for the SmackDown review. Until then, take care.